Those questions were asked today in a lengthy hearing, and we did hear some answers. As the night team's Tyler Emery is telling us live right now tonight, Louisville's public safety chief is also apologizing for mistakes during those protests. Tyler?
Doug, tonight included 5 hours of testimony from Metro Council members on the Government Oversight Committee. And one of the key takeaways was that LMPD commanding officers say they were the ones making many of the decisions about protest responses on the ground as things happened in real time. But upper leadership was also part of the decisions.
I made mistakes.
Chief of Public Safety Amy Hess saying there were communication errors during the protests that began May 28th. Hess says she asked questions of LMPD command staff about police tactics that were at times interpreted as direct orders.
Those things were decisions that had to be made very quickly and without having a full appreciation of the consequences.
There's been a lot of frustration on the part of the police department and the officers on the street about what direction to take, what stance to take, at what lines are we going to enforce.
Hess indicating during her testimony, orders were not given directly to LMPD from the mayor.
I never heard a enforce this, don't enforce this, or directive. The only thing that I recall the mayor saying consistently was he wanted to emphasize de-escalation and he wanted to emphasize restraint.
Colonel Josh Judah adding the lack of police presence during the disruption to 4th Street Live during the first weekend of protests was not due to a stand-down order from the mayor's office.
No, I do not believe in any way, shape, or form that is true.
Major Humphrey describes an environment created in part by upper leadership that amounts to an effective stand-down order.
And so it creates this atmosphere where officers are a bit confused and don't really know what to do and see that there's a delay in their ability to take action when they know they should be taking action. And that adds up to an effective stand-down order.
Hess and Humphrey say communications changed between the mayor's leadership and LMPD after June 15th, where Major Humphrey and another officer went into a group of protesters they believed to be dangerous without any protective gear.
That was my call, and as a result of me saying that, Major Humphrey and one other officer went down the street and took on a very large group of individuals and put their own lives at risk because of that decision that I regret.
Now, Chief Robert Schroeder, who was also subpoenaed by Metro Council, attended today's hearing, but he did not answer any questions at the advice of his attorneys. Now, the council made a motion to try and compel his testimony at a potential hearing next Wednesday, which would be just days before he's set to retire on October 1st. Doug?
You know, Tyler, there have been so many questions in this town about the mayor's involvement. What was it? Some answers we got in the hearing today, but Tyler, as the protests move on through June, July, and August, I'm curious, did Greg Fisher get more involved in the protests with police?
Actually, Doug, according to Chief Amy Hess, it was less so. Hess said tonight during her testimony that the mayor has been involved in discussions and he still asks a lot of questions, but she said that as time has gone on, there's actually been greater deference to LMPD leadership and its command staff in making the decisions about protest responses. And I also want to add that Committee Chair Brent Ackerson, after the hearing tonight, told me that he got a lot of his questions answered, but he still has more that he wants answers to. He said he plans to go back to his other council members and talk to them about who else they may want to call for testimony as part of this investigation. And he says that he actually anticipates that could include the mayor at some point. Doug?
All right, Tyler, thank you very much. Of course, Tyler, one of the first reporters on the scene there on May 28th. Well, brand